We are back, and it's time for Definitive Ranking, a recurring segment where we take a Nintendo topic and give our own personal top five lists. Since I just ran down the list of what is coming out for the rest of 2024 for Switch, Victor, I want to get your top five games you are most excited about for the rest of the year. So start with five, count it down to one, give me a sentence or two about each.
Okay. Number five for me is Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake that's coming. I didn't play the original stuff. I've played a lot of RPGs, but that's not my top line first thing that I always go to.
Mm.
But I love them and I do appreciate them like crazy. And I did love Dragon Quest 11, and I know the history and the legacy of Dragon Quest. So it's going to be amazing to re-experience this game, or to experience it in my case for the first time in this beautiful format. And I love these Square Enix HD 2D games. Or is it HD 2D or
HD
2D
2D. I always
HD
get it
2D?
confused, but I think that
Yeah.
because I wrote a preview about Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, I got it in my head that that is the way it's supposed to be, and yeah, it's very confusing.
I love those games though. I loved Live Alive. I
Beautiful art
loved,
style.
yeah, Triangle Strategy, and of course the Octopath Traveler games. They've just all blown me away. And now with this story and these characters, I think I'm going to love that game. Number four for me is the Plucky Squire,
Mm.
which I don't know the name of the developer, but Devolver's publishing it. And I'm a huge fan of a Link Between Worlds, the Legend of Zelda game, where you would go from a 2D sort of painting on the wall, and then you'd pop out and it'd be kind of traditional overhead. I just love that perspective change, and this idea of being this character that pops out of an art book or a picture book and then is running around in two-dimensional form and in 3D character form in this game world with a mix of kind of photoreal elements and animated elements. It looks just exquisite, and it looks so Nintendo friendly for me. Mario and Luigi Brothership. I don't know too much about this other than the mechanics that got shown off and the trailer stuff that we've seen so far. But I am so ready to have the two brothers kind of work together to solve these puzzles and to play with these new mechanics. They've said in subsequent pieces that I've been reading and blurbs that I've been reading that some of the Alpha Dream, was that the
Yeah,
company
yeah,
that
yeah.
was making it? Some of the Alpha Dream people are working on this, so some veterans from the franchise are a part of this. I'm excited by that, but it looks great, and it's I just love that it's a new game and not a remake or a remaster, which I thought that was the case when they first started rolling into it on the direct. It's totally new, which I think is amazing. Number two is Marvel vs. Capcom fighting game collection. This mix of arcade experiences, being able to throw the Punisher into this and playing one
Oh
of the
yeah.
most expensive Genesis games that you can buy. If you want to get that cartridge, you're spending hundreds of dollars.
Mm.
And they're great games, man. They're great, freaking awesome 2D experiences with some of the greatest characters in pop culture, but great video game characters with all of these different mechanics and animations and the skill sets that each of these
And,
characters have. So excited about this,
and
you know?
Marvel's in such a different place now than it was even when Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out. Like, I mean, think about
Right,
like where Marvel was then when they were just like basically doing a fire sale of their licenses, and now it's
right.
like, they're one of the biggest things on the planet.
They're the crown jewel. Yeah. And which is interesting because maybe, and I don't know, I haven't dug into this, but maybe there's some new little pieces in there that Marvel and
Mm.
Capcom have worked out, which would be really rad. I don't know if there is, or maybe this leads to something new, which is also equally exciting. The idea
That's
that
always
this
the
is the
hope.
beginning. Yeah, at the beginning of something. But to have these collected works, and some of them have been almost impossible to purchase and buy, and unless you're made of money and you collect all of this stuff, and then even then you're preserving it and not even touching it, you're putting it somewhere. It's going to be rad to have that
Well,
on my Switch.
I'm very excited to have that on my Switch. We were talking before we started about my arcade one-up cabinets.
Yeah,
One of mine is the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet, which I
great.
adore. I can't wait to have it on the go now because, like, as cool as these cabinets are, they're not exactly portable.
No, no, I'm so envious. I wish I had the basement space to have. I have the little ones. These are from
Hmm.
Replicate, and I love these things. They're actually playable, but I would love a little mini arcade down in my space. But Vancouver real estate super freaking expensive out
Yeah.
here. I just don't have the basement space for that. Maybe one day. But number one on my list is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and it's all about this finally getting our hands on the character of Zelda and playing a mainline Zelda experience that ties to story elements and bits and mythology that we are familiar with, although they always adapt it for each new game. It's almost a reinvention every single time, but I am so psyched to learn her skill set and learn those mechanics. And the art style is so representative of lots of Zelda games that I've loved before. Genuinely, I love the representation as well. I think with the Princess Peach game, it was really cool to share that with my kid. I think it's going to be awesome to let her play as Zelda and see what she's got to say about this. I think it's really important. I have this story that I default to when I was editing the 2016 Ghostbusters movie review that I did, and it was just an okay movie. But I was putting the clips together. My little 4-year-old at the time came in and looked up way up because she was shorter than my desk at that time, and she looked up at my monitor and said, "There are girl Ghostbusters," and it hit me through the heart that my 4-year-old kid recognized the disparity in female heroes and male heroes. And
Mhm.
we'd never talked to her about any of that, but she saw it. She saw that there was this you know absence of female representation in these beautiful characters. And she knew I loved video games and had played through Zelda games and had seen Zelda. One of her first things that she picked up on was the White Witch in Final Fantasy for the NES Classic Edition, the little mini NES Classic thing.
Mhm.
She saw me playing a little Final Fantasy. She saw a little White Witch. I like the White Witch. It's just a bunch of pixels. And she saw herself in this little bunch of pixels. So it's going to be cool to see what she's got to say now. Obviously no longer 4, but it's going to be cool for her to see and play as Zelda and get her thoughts on that. Now, I hope she loves it, and I hope I love it. But it's the number one game I'm most excited for on the Switch for the rest of 2024.
For sure. I mean, it was, I think, but I said this last episode, but when you talk about what your biggest surprise or biggest, not biggest surprise, but biggest, most exciting game that came out of that direct, I feel like it was either Metroid Prime or
Mm,
Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I mean, maybe some people said Mario and Luigi Brothership, but I think that a lot of people probably are leaning towards Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and
yeah,
just some really cool mechanics. And I can't wait to play that. I love top-down Zeldas. I mean,
me
my
too.
two favorite Zeldas are 3D Zeldas, but then like, A Link Between Worlds. I adore that game. A Link to the
It's
Past, one of the
amazing.
all-time greatest
Yes.
games. So, yeah.
A Link Between Worlds on the Switch 2 with the Switch as the bottom screen.
we're gonna we're gonna
What's your
manifest this idea. We're gonna
it's
speak this
gonna
into existence.
Oh my god.
But
But
all
yeah,
right,
I
well,
can't wait for Metroid 4. Holy crap. That looks
yeah,
gorgeous.
it
I
looks
love that
fantastic as
franchise so
well.
much. Yeah.
I wish it was earlier, but not
Yeah.
2025. But what can you
Yeah.
do? We've been waiting for it since 2017.
We just saw it, man. We finally saw it. Not just the title screen. We saw
Yeah.
something. It's going to be great.
All right, so I have two games that overlap with yours on my top five, and then three games that are completely distinct. So we'll start with number
Cool.
five, Marvel vs. Capcom Collection. All the reasons you
Great.
said, love
Yep.
those games. I'm excited for actually the older ones like X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Street
Yes.
Fighter. Like you said, the
Yes.
Punisher game. Very excited for that. But then, of course, having the bona fide classics like Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, very very excited for all of that, plus a lot
Yep.
of online play on that. I'm not that I'm
Yep.
gonna spend too much time doing that because I know that if I go online with those games I'll get my butt handed to me.
It would have been okay for them to put 3 on there. I know they're
Yeah,
3D, but
yeah, I mean,
3 was so good too. 3 was an excellent game. They couldn't quite meet that again, that match that again, but 3 was excellent,
yeah,
man.
3 was really good.
So exciting.
When you said that, I immediately went to Infinite, which I was like, no, 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 keep that away
Yeah.
if you can. But
Yeah.
no, 3 was very good, especially
Yeah.
Ultimate 3. I
Yeah.
wish they did, but maybe they'll do that
Yeah.
as like a standalone release. It's already on, I believe, both PS5 and Xbox Series X through backward compatibility,
Yes. Yeah.
but maybe
And
I'm
it's
wrong.
Steam Deck compatible too.
Oh, even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Number four for me, SteamWorld Heist 2. This is a game that I got my hands on at Summer Game Fest, and I was not a SteamWorld fan really, but I went
Mm.
into this appointment and I was like, okay, it's a big game that like people are excited for. and I played it for about an hour, and I was like, "Man, this is a lot of fun." Like, I am
They're
really
great game makers over there. Yeah.
I went home and I downloaded SteamWorld Heist 1 on my Switch and played for about 2 hours just to, like, get a taste of it again, and now, like, it's coming out not too I think it's August 8th is the release date, so don't have long to wait. So I did play a few hours of it on my Switch, and then I was like, "All right, I'm gonna tap the brakes and just let that anticipation ride until SteamWorld Heist 2 comes out." So looking
That's
forward to
great to
that.
hear.
Uh,
I love those SteamWorld games, but I feel like I Dig 1 and 2 blew me away, and then I got into, because they've got other ones, but I feel like they've made so many of them in such a short amount of time that they haven't done the Nintendo trick of letting anticipation build, and letting us miss these things a
it's
little
almost
bit.
like the Yakuza series where it was like, "All right, you liked
Yeah,
Yakuza
exactly.
0. Here's 1 through 5 in the span of 2 years,
Yeah, totally.
plus
And
new
they're long
entries."
games. They take a
Yeah,
long time with long cutscenes, and it's like, oh my god, I'm living in this world now.
exactly. But hey, there's worse places to live than a
Totally.
fictionalized Tokyo.
Yes.
Number 3, Fantasian Neo Dimension. I don't know if you played
Yeah,
this on Apple Arcade.
I have. Yes.
I played maybe about 5, 6 hours of it. I enjoyed
Hmm.
what I played of it, and I was like, "Oh, I'd love this on a console. That's what I really want." And lo and
Yeah.
behold, that's what we're getting.
Yeah.
It's from Hironobu Sakaguchi and Nobuo Uematsu, the creator of Final Fantasy and the longtime composer of Final Fantasy. So,
Published
like,
by Square Enix.
published by Square Enix.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a big deal.
it was very well received on Apple Arcade, and I can't
Yeah.
imagine it's going. And for people who hear that and think like, "Oh no, it's a mobile game," but Apple Arcade's core concept is there are no microtransactions. You just
Yeah.
what you get is what you get, and if there's any updates, they're free of charge. So that's what I'm most excited for. Is it's a new RPG by the guy who made Final Fantasy 1 through 10,
Yeah.
and then
And
left.
they made dioramas, which was really cool, and they
Yeah,
digitized these physical backgrounds into the gameplay, and so there's a real tactility to the world that you're running around in. It's beautiful, and there's some great, because Apple paid for this, so there's some great behind the scenes stuff if you're interested in it to watch on YouTube, sort of how they put all of this stuff together. It's a fascinating story. I'm just really glad that more people are going to be able to jump into it and play it.
for sure, and it
Yeah,
deserves the spotlight. And again, I've shouted this out a few times, but Lost Odyssey by the same studio,
yeah,
just a top tier RPG from this century. Like
yeah.
I always pitch it as the single player Final Fantasy 11 that we never got
Super dope.
because it's so good. I wish it was
Yeah,
on more platforms than just Xbox 360 though.
yeah.
Like that would be perfect on Switch or Steam Deck or something. Like I would play that on a flight easily.
Yeah. Is that backwards compatible, do you know,
It
on
is, yeah.
Xbox?
You
Yeah,
can
okay,
fire it
cool.
up on your Xbox Series X right now if you want. And I think they even put it on sale pretty frequently. I think when it first released, they put it out on the like digital storefronts. I think originally it was physical only,
Right.
and then they recently put it on digital storefronts, like when they were doing that push of like Xbox 360 games working on Xbox One. And I think
Yeah.
when they put it out, it was like on sale for $2 just to like celebrate this game coming out
Wow.
on digital for the first time ever. And I was like, oh, well, that's the easiest $2 I've ever dropped in my life. So yeah, I'm excited for another game from that studio. Number
Legend.
2, another Apple Arcade game, TMNT Splintered Fate.
That's a very cool game, and because both of those are on Apple Arcade, and I've checked them both out, I didn't put them on my list, but those are two very cool experiences.
I have not actually checked this out. I downloaded it because again, I'm an Apple Arcade subscriber. But
Yeah.
then like I looked at it and I'm like, I don't want to go through like I don't want to pair my controller. Like if I'm playing a game on mobile, I just want
Yeah.
to play it on my phone. I want to hold my phone upright or
That's-
sideways or whatever.
Not to turn this into a Razor Kishi ad. Oh, I don't want to show my family, but uh, hold on. Let me open it up. I have the Razor Kishi Ultra on my iPhone here, and oh wait a second. Oh wait a second. Open. There it is. Um, and it's amazing. Like it is just like it's very expensive, but it turns it into like you forget that you're playing on a phone when
Hmm.
you get the right controller on this thing. And they sent me one to review, and I was on flights, and I'm like, I thought I was on a Steam Deck, and
That's
now they're
incredible.
Apple's releasing AAA games like Resident Evil. They're
Assassin's
partnering with
Creed.
Capcom, Assassin's Creed, and stuff. Yeah, people. I feel like Apple is stealthily moving into this really interesting space. They could do more with Apple Arcade, but when you're playing Apple Arcade games with a controller like that, you're not thinking about what you're missing. You're just playing the games. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna need to get myself one of those. Like, but I already have two bulky things that I carry in my bag, in addition to
Yeah,
like my iPad and all that other stuff. It's like, all right, the Steam Deck is very bulky. I mean, it's
it
portable,
is.
it's comfortable
Yeah,
in your hands, but stuffing it in a bag, like with that
yeah,
case, is just like at least the
yeah.
Switch is pretty slimline when you slide it into like your backpack or something. But like the Steam Deck
Totally.
takes up the vast majority. So adding another
Yeah, and
thing.
this is Steam Deck sized, honestly, and they didn't really
Mhm.
ship it with a case. That was one of my complaints with it, because you got to protect everything, when you.
Yeah.
Anyways, uh, yeah,
But yeah, so Splintered Fate, I'm excited to finally have that on a console. And then number one, I bet anybody listening to this show can guess what it is. It is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom for all the reasons we've already
yeah.
talked about.